If you're feeling stiff and tight in your ankles, you're not alone. As we age, we do tend to lose mobility in this part of our body. This is largely due to arthritis, past injuries, and just lack of motion in general. When our ankles don't move as well, we can translate this motion into our knees, our hips, our lower back, all the way up into our neck, having more joint pain. That's why in this video, I'm going to show you 3 simple exercises that you can do to improve your mobility from a muscular standpoint. When our muscles are stronger, we have less strain to any nearby joints. Make sure to stay tuned to the end of the video where I show you a combination exercise that will help you to accomplish all 3 exercises together. Welcome to the Joint Longevity Lab by Fitness Integrated Science. My name is Lauren Irk, and I'm an MAT specialist as well as a certified yoga therapist and personal trainer. I definitely see people coming in all the time with ankle and foot injuries and telling me that they feel very tight in their feet. I think it's really important to understand the anatomy before we dive into these exercises. So just real quick, let's take a look at the areas that we're looking at. We have the ankle is basically the tibia as well as the fibula, these 2 bones that come down over the top of a very interesting bone in the foot that we call the talus. The talus is this bone right here, and it has a round or circular surface that allows the foot to move into 2 motions that we call dorsiflexion, bringing the top of the foot into the lower leg, as well as plantar flexion, which is the opposite, moving it away from the lower leg. Now, we have various things that get in the way of our motion. Certainly our genetics play a very big role. If we don't have a lot of contact surface on that talus, or let's say that we have some cartilage disruption or arthritis, that is going to be a big deterrent to our range of motion. Also, the angle and the size of this bone will determine our range of motion as we go up and out and down and in, which is typically the range of motion. The bones on top of that talus really keep us from going a lot of side to side in the ankle. We don't have any tendons or muscle in the skeleton. And also we're going to see that we don't do any kind of rotation. So it's not going to go side to side or rotate very much, but it's very good at moving in the sagittal plane as that synovial joint. Now, as we begin looking at these exercises, let's take a look at the posterior compartment of the knee. These muscles, half of them cross the knee and half of them do not. So for my first set of exercises, I want to talk about the muscles that cross the knee called the gastrocnemius. This is your upper calf muscle. We have a medial as well as a lateral calf muscle. They're big balls. You can see them when people wear high heels that stick out of that lower leg, and they do make an attachment into that calcaneus. So the heel bone itself. How do we make these stronger? The first thing we want to think about are the muscles that cross the ankle. Not only is it going to be the calf, but it's also going to be our toe flexors. So one thing you might want to do is just take your foot out in front of you and just practice curling your toes. Sometimes I'll give clients exercises like getting a newspaper, if anybody gets a newspaper anymore, and just trying to crinkle that up with your toes. Or maybe get a bucket of rice and just start working with your toes in that bucket of rice and see if you can pick any of them up. But working with your toe flexors is very, very important. We tend to lose mobility in this region as we age. From there, moving from toe flexion, we also want to move into ankle plantar flexion. Now, I had about 14 years of ballet, you would never know it now, when I was a kid. And I definitely noticed that I didn't have the best ability to point my feet as some of the other girls did. Some of the other girls just would curl their foot way under, and those are the ones that ultimately became ballerinas because they could stand on their feet. You can see that my foot is pretty flat at the top, but that is really my anatomy. That's as far as my foot is going to go. So you have to keep that in mind when you're trying to push yourself into some of these activities. Now, if I want to get my ankle plantar flexion stronger, anytime I do a calf raise, my toe flexors are not going to be able to be involved because I'm not in a pair of toe shoes. So I want to start off with 2 hands on the chair and then work on pushing the balls of the feet into the floor, all 5 toes pressing. Then from here, I'm just going to lift my body weight up so that my heel moves up towards the back of my knee. And when I get to the top, this is plantar flexion. I want to squeeze both the inside as well as the outside of my lower leg for just a second or so, and then I want to guide that back down. Now, you're welcome to hang your feet off the steps, but I'm not a big fan of stretching the back of the ankle. So again, as we come back up into plantar flexion, we're here, and then we bring that back down. One of the mistakes that people make is rolling out onto the feet, and this is just due to muscle weakness and maybe not used to it, maybe you have some immobility across your big toe, maybe you have a bunion or some sort of a previous surgery, do the best that you can to push into that big toe, because that's what's going to be used to transform the foot from pronation to supination. Now, over time, we can translate that into a standing one-legged calf raise, which now you can see I'm lifting all of my body weight over my foot. One of the things about this exercise that makes this so effective is that it makes that weaker side have to show up. But that's also a bad thing too. We can no longer compensate over that foot. If we do have a weaker side, it is going to show up because my stronger side can no longer be compensating and helping it along. So this might be a progression, and then eventually working towards more jumping and propulsion on one or two legs, okay? Now, for the next exercise, we want to work, we're still in that posterior compartment, on the lower calf. And this is actually going to be a very important muscle group, but it doesn't cross the knee. So that being said, we don't need to do this with a straight leg. I'll show this from a standing standpoint first, and then I'll show you a chair version. So that we want to start by bending the knee, and I'm going to go ahead and bend it to where about 90 degrees. Now, obviously, doing this on your stomach would be easier. Right now, I'm resisting gravity, so I have hamstring influence. I'm dealing with the weight of my lower leg. So just picture yourself on your belly. So I just want you to bring this in and just try to actually isometrically curl your toes, if you like, and then start to come into that plantar flex position at the ankle. Hold that for a second or two, and then just release. And then try that again. We're curling into that toe, tightening, and then releasing that just like that. Now, from a seated position, the same exercise can be done minus the weight bearing. Now you can see that I can actually use the floor. Obviously, the toes are going to be in that same extended position, but just trying to lift maybe the weight of my leg, trying to pull that heel up as high as possible into my lower leg. So this might be a nice progression with 1 or 2 feet, just taking that time to experience full plantar flexion. And you'll be amazed, if you've never done this before, you may notice that your feet start to cramp up and get fatigued rather quickly. Over a period of time, as you get stronger, you can try dealing with the weight of your foot, much like we did in our standing upper calf exercise. So the way that I would do this, again, 2 feet to start, is by bending the knees. Now we're starting in a position of ankle dorsiflexion, so that may be a deterrent for some of you. Then from there, all I'm going to do is just roll through to the top of my foot until my heel is over my toes, or as close as they can be. And some people won't get very far at all if you've never done this before, or again, if you have something to deal with your heredity that prohibits you from coming into a full plantar flex position. Your plantar flex position full may look different than someone else. So I encourage you to just sort of monitor your own progress and not look at me or anybody else. At the top of this range, just like with the upper calf exercise, I am making myself fully aware of that lower leg, working into that soleus region, making sure that I'm pushing from the inside as well as the outside of that foot. Now, just like with our standing one-legged straight leg calf raise for the gastrocnemius, I can do the same thing with one leg on the floor. Now this is very challenging, and you can practice doing it quickly if you like, adding speed, trying to get that heel over it, and you can actually push into that surface. But this will improve your ability to jump as well if you like to do sports that require you to run and shift directions. Now, working with the posterior compartment is very important to our overall gait, but we also have to be good at pronating. And that brings me to my third and final exercise, which is ankle dorsiflexion. I'm going to show you this in a series as well. So I want to start off by just sitting in a chair. As you take one leg out in front of you, move your foot out to where your whole foot is on the ground and you're not having to strain. My calf muscle is pretty relaxed. I'm not dealing with the weight of my leg whatsoever, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the top of my foot towards my lower leg. And you can see, due to other joints in the foot, that there's not going to be a straight motion up and back. You may notice that your foot is kind of coming up and out a little bit. That is absolutely normal. That's actually what we want, but I'm taking my time to experience a little bit of a contraction. This is actually a better exercise to do to stretch your ankles, right? Because the stronger the front of the ankle is, the less the back of the ankle actually has to tighten up. From here, I can actually try working with 2 feet at the same time. If I have my feet underneath me, this is much harder. Do you notice that? Because I'm starting at 90, and then all I can do is go up from 90. Here, I was starting from below 90. Now I actually feel as though I have more range of motion. Here, I'm going to feel pretty maxed out right off the bat, and my range of motion will be much smaller. That being said, I could do the exact same thing coming in from a standing position. Now I'm dealing with the weight of my body, but I'm still just lifting the tops of my feet up against the force of gravity. I definitely would recommend using a chair for this because you will feel yourself leaning back. Now over time, you may be able to add again that propulsion, maybe some toe taps, maybe alternating one side or the other, and this will help you to improve your ability to dorsiflex from the ankle. Now, as I promised, there is one thing that I oftentimes give my clients, especially when I'm trying to warm them up for a personal training session, that accomplishes all 3 of these exercises together. We're going to do this as a progression of 2 feet into 1 feet. So from 2 feet, all that dorsiflexion work, you should notice that, wow, my ankle dorsiflexion has improved my ability to squat. I've taken the pressure off of my knee. My knee did not have to get torqued to the left or to the right because my ankle is actually bending better, which is awesome. Then from there, I want to come all the way up into my toes and then eventually come up onto the knee. Again, I'm dropping down and then sinking into my heels. So again, I'm coming into dorsiflexion. You could even lean back a little bit, come down, roll up into that lower leg, straight leg, bent leg, and come down. Shifting back and rolling up. Shifting back and rolling up. Now you can also do this from a one-legged position. So for instance, if I have this chair here, I'm taking this leg out in front. This is a lot of work on the standing leg. As I come into this position, I'm going to bring this all the way through and then bending that all the way down. Squeezing it up and in so you can see I am transferring quickly from the back of my ankle to the front of my ankle. Now, when you're in this position, your ankle is working a little bit more eccentrically, but this is truly where that dorsiflexion shows up most of the time in exercise. And I would encourage you to do this on both legs, simply because when we are always focused on the things that we're good at, we miss so many of our muscle weaknesses that eventually can lead into injury. Now, I hope this video helped you. I hope it gave you some really quick things that you can do on your own. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed so that you never miss a video, and also share it with your friends if you know anyone that I can help. If you'd like more information about exercises like this in full routines, as well as moving into the midfoot as well as the forefoot, please check out Fitness Integrated Science TV. I'm going to put a link here below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.